Fordo was prohibited from enriching uranium until 2030. And so Trump's decision to tear up that agreement and to abandon it, the Iranians were adhering to it. The United States was not. So unfortunately, I think the Trump administration has decided to go forward with Bibi Netanyahu's plans to do as much damage as possible inside of Iran.
The Jews. He's blaming the Jews. Was he going to run for D.C. city councilor or something? He's saying, we might break a heat record in Washington, D.C. today. I assume the Democrats are going to blame the Jews. It's going to be hot. Like Trayon White, our D.C. city councilman. He blamed, who was it? The Jews for snow in Washington. Now, heat record, that's got to be them too. But that was John Penitentiary Face Brennan, the Communist Party voting CIA director, Democrat Party. They hate us all. And I went because this is what I do for a living. I can do this quickly. The Parliament out of the United Kingdom, the UK, the House of Commons, they have a library, and I was naturally reading the UK Parliament, House of Commons library, and the story that they produced on Friday, the 4th of October of 2024. So, not a year ago, but, a while ago. And isn't that amazing? And the headline, research briefing, what is the status of Iran's nuclear program and the JCPOA? Also known as the JCPOS, but that is just its nickname. How is Iran's nuclear program developing, and are talks still on the table? Again, October of 2024. And reading through the document, it's quite interesting. I think John Brennan should read this. He would be less corrupt and less stupid, but it's his goal to be more stupid and more corrupt, because he's a communist who votes for Gus Hall, the Communist Party candidate for President of the United States, and then becomes Barack Obama's chief advisor on terrorism, and then becomes Barack Obama's CIA director, and then corrupts the 2020 presidential election by lying about the Hunter Biden laptop, along with 50 other corrupt intelligence and pseudo-intelligence people. But here is the British House of Commons, the Commons Library. The Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, parenthetically JCPOA, or Iran nuclear deal, is an agreement reached in 2015 between Iran, the UK, China, France, Germany, Russia, and the U.S. The P5+1. Remember P5+1? You people are just ridiculous. And the plan of the JCPOS was to limit Iranian nuclear, the Iranian nuclear program, in exchange for sanctions relief. And the Democrats gave them all the sanctions relief, but they continued to enrich uranium and lie and cheat and steal and everything else. It was endorsed by the UN Security Council Resolution 2231 in 2015. But it goes on, the JCPOA agreement does not expire until October of 2025. That's this year, by the way. However, a significant milestone was reached on 18 October 2023, Transition Day. Is that a gender transition? Because with Democrats, it usually is. That's when they use the word transition. We know what that means. When all remaining nuclear-related sanctions against Iran under the UN Security Council Resolution 2231, including restrictions on ballistic missiles and sensitive technologies, expired 2023. Now, listen to this. Here's the British, the House of Commons. The status of the Iranian nuclear programming. They say programmy and not program because they're English, But here's what they write, the House of Commons. Since May 2019, however, Iran has continued to violate the terms of the JCPOA agreement. It has lifted the cap on its stockpile of uranium, meaning they have more than is allowed under the JCPOA terms of quantity, which is now 30 times the level permitted by the JCPOA. Just 30 times, not twice as much or 3 times as much, 30 times as much. They have increased its enrichment activities. Iran has increased its enrichment activities to 60%. They're enriching uranium to 60% purity, significantly beyond the 3.67% permitted under the JCPOA. So wait a minute. Their uranium, they've got 30 times as much uranium as they're allowed to have. They're enriching to 60% purity when the agreement says 3.6% purity permitted under the JCPOA. Iran has also expanded its enrichment capabilities and resumed activity at nuclear facilities that were previously prohibited under the terms of the deal. The International Atomic Energy Agency, the IAEA, says that it has been prevented from satisfactorily monitoring Iran's nuclear activities since February of 2021. Wow, isn't that amazing? What happened in January 2021? Oh, Joe Biden became president. He was inaugurated. And then in early 2023, the IAEA also reported the discovery of particles of uranium enriched to 83.7% purity, although subsequently accepted Iran's explanation that for the materials, weapons-grade uranium is enriched to 90%, and it takes from 60% to 90%. That's a short walk, and what they're allowed 3.6%, but they're up to 60% purity by way of their enrichment. And as soon as Joe Biden became president, they just ignored it altogether, and they're not allowing the IAEA to go in and inspect, and they have 30 times the amount of uranium they're allowed to have, and they have 60% purity when they're allowed 3.6% purity. And the Democrats shrug and say, so what? Because of their mental dwarfism. Isn't that amazing? Estimates of breakout time do not account, however, for the technological capability and time required to build a deliverable nuclear warhead, which has been estimated to be 1 to 2 years. Yeah, but not once you have your uranium enriched to 60% already. They're rushing it through, and they're building weapons. Here's the bottom line. They're lying about everything, and they're building weapons. And they're terrorists, radical Islamic jihadi terrorists, lunatics. The leadership of the country should go. The Iranian people should make sure that they go. Isn't that amazing? And U.S. intelligence with vague language. And I'm sorry, John Brennan lecturing anybody about anything is almost funny. Man, just crazy. All right, let's get back because we have more audio to get to. And I did talk about some of the other wacky Democrat hijinks today because a Democrat judge has arranged for the release of Kilmore Abrego Garcia, the human trafficker, MS-13 trafficker, the wife beater, the physical restraining order because he beat his baby mama, then married her when he was behind bulletproof glass in jail. And then he got out and he beat her again, and another restraining order there. And the Democrats applaud his release because he's a Salvadoran gang member, and they love that. A Democrat judge also springing Mahmoud Khalil, the Palestinian, allegedly, activist at Columbia University who's inciting hatred against Israel and the Jews. And it turned out he lied on his applications for visas about his affiliations with radical organizations. And when found out, the Trump administration said, well, we should probably deport him. And he was thrown in the Huzgau, and now the Democrats have made sure that he was released because this is the America they want. All right, Kilmore Abrego Garcia and Mahmoud Khalil running around the streets of your town because that's the Democrat Party. Boy, oh boy. All right, let's get back to, Sunday number 6, President Trump on Saturday night address to the nation.
Remember, there are many targets left. Tonight's was the most difficult of them all, by far, and perhaps the most lethal. But if peace does not come quickly, we will go after those other targets with precision, speed, and skill. Most of them can be taken out in a matter of minutes. There's no military in the world that could have done what we did tonight, not even close. There has never been a military that could do what took place just a little while ago.
All true, and our military performed beautifully, and operational security was maintained perfectly. Turns out, according to the White House, they did inform the Lizard King, Chuck Schumer, before the bombs dropped, but he's apparently the only Democrat. You know what? It might have been a trap. Now that I think about it, because Hakeem Jeffries, they couldn't get a hold of him. So the only Democrat they told was the Lizard King, Chuck Schumer, who's not on the side of America or civilization. And if there had been any leak to the New York Times or MS-13 DNC, then it would inevitably be traced right back to Chuck Schumer, and he would be toast. So one Democrat on Capitol Hill was told, and if it had leaked and they had botched the whole thing, then all arrows would be pointing at Chuck Schumer's scabrous head. President Trump wrapping it up on Saturday night.
Tomorrow, General Kane, Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth will have a press conference at 8 a.m. at the Pentagon. And I want to just thank everybody, and in particular, God. I want to just say we love you, God, and we love our great military. Protect them. God bless the Middle East. God bless Israel. And God bless America. Thank you very much. Thank you.
And God bless America. And then he turned and he walked away. And the vice president was with him, J.D. Vance, Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth. And there was no Q&A. And then, sure enough, J.D. Vance went on television the next morning. And everything that any Republican said just makes the Democrats soil themselves again. J.D. Vance.
We're not at war with Iran. We're at war with Iran's nuclear program. And let me just say, Kristen, that we're incredibly grateful and proud of the American Air Force pilots who did an incredible job last night.
And they did. And it's a good line. We're not at war with Iran. We're at Iran, not even with the regime, not even with the mullahs, the Council of Mullahs and the Ayatollah, but with their nuclear program, because you don't want terrorists having a... Now, and then the president said that the defense secretary, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, would have a press conference at 8 a.m. on Sunday morning, and they did have a press conference at 8 a.m. on Sunday morning. Chairman of the Joint Chiefs, General Dan Raisin Kane.
At midnight Friday into Saturday morning, a large B-2 strike package comprised of bombers launched from the continental United States. As part of the plan to maintain tactical surprise, part of the package proceeded to the west and into the Pacific as a decoy. The main strike package, comprised of 7 B-2 Spirit bombers, each with 2 crew members, proceeded quietly to the east with minimal communications.
Minimal communications, very interesting. They apparently kept comms because they're flying over a lot of different countries and ships and so on. They kept comms to a very bare bones minimum, and that is smart. And they told one Democrat, and it was a trap for Schumer. If he had leaked everything, it would have been all on him. That's kind of fun. And they allegedly tried to get a hold of Hakeem Jeffries, mentored by Professor Leonard Jeffries, his uncle, a notorious anti-Semite Israel hater. You know, it's all in the Democrat family, isn't it? And we got our D.C. City Councilman, Trayan White, who blames the Rothschild family for weather, for bad weather, just bad weather, not good weather. Aren't they amazing? You know, big wireless is pulling one over on all of us. It's time to switch to consumer cellular. Listen, I switched. I'm getting the same fast, reliable, nationwide big wireless coverage without the big wireless cost. But it's not just about saving money on my bill either. It's also about not being used and abused by these big phone companies. Do you even know how much data you use every month? Most people over the age of 50 use less than 8 gigs of data in a month. But big wireless, they want to shove you into an unlimited plan, charge you lots and lots of money for it because they're redistributing your wealth to cover the cost of of 20-year-olds using their data 19 hours a day, not like you. You know, Consumer Cellular, they set me up with a service and an amazing phone with an amazing camera, and it's incredibly easy to switch. All you have to do is call. You speak to an actual human being based right here in the actual United States. Not a bot, not on a space platform. Real human beings who are incredibly helpful. And it only takes about 20 minutes. So give them a call and make the switch today to Consumer Cellular at 1-800-760-0702. 1-800-760-0702. Now, this morning's been going fast. And they're still going to lie to you. Oh, no, and Penitentiary Face, Communist Party voter, John Brennan, says, oh, no, the Iranians are adhering to it. Really, the British House of Commons disagrees.
D.C. keep talking about we're a resilient city. And that's a model based off the Rothschilds controlling the climate to create natural disasters they can pay for it and own the cities, man. Be careful.
Chris here with a list of things that none of us should trust. The Washington Post, the New York Times, anything on CNN. Here's a list of things that I do trust. The Washington Times. Support real journalism for just $1 a week at washingtontimes.com/Chris. All right, I've got more, and let me tell you, I want to tell you, my best girl and I were having a conversation yesterday morning on the couch when a smart woman came on television and said what my best girl had just said about this, the events of this weekend. I want to share that coming up. Right now, let's go to the telephones and speak telephonically to Shannon, calling from Lexington, Kentucky. Shannon, you're on the Chris Plante Show.
Good morning, sir. Thank you for taking my call. I'm not in a place right now where I can look it up, but didn't the president revoke John Brennan's clearance for security issues?
Yes, he did. Yes, President Trump did.
So then how would John Brennan know what Iran had or whether or not they were ready to use it? How would he know that?
Oh, you raise quite a fascinating question. So it raises the question whether people inside the intelligence community are illegally leaking to him when he does not have a security clearance, and he should not have classified information shared with him.
Correct.
Very good. Have you ever had a security clearance?
I have.
See, I could tell that you had. I don't want to. Yeah. I don't want to draw you out, but it sounds to me like I'm talking to someone who had a security clearance, and if people
I just say, and then I have to go.
Yeah,
the oath never expires.
And the oath, well, that's right, oath keeper. That's right, the oath never expires. Yeah, John Brennan never meant it when he took it, when he was forced to take the oath. He's not an oath keeper. He was an oath filer. He laughed as soon as he lowered his hand. Also, keeping in mind that the Biden administration released more than 700 Iranian nationals who were nabbed coming into the country illegally at our southern border. I'll guarantee that they're approximately 100% military-aged men. But the Democrats, they have invited the invading army to the dinner table and given them the rifles. More than 700 Iranian nationals released into the U.S. during Biden administration, despite terrorism concerns, sleeper cells, any of that. Trump's decisive action against Iran raises alarm about security risks following Biden's release of 729 special interest aliens. That is to say, illegal aliens from Iran, which is a terrorist country waging war against the United States, having murdered more than 1,000 Americans in Iraq, a country where Iran was not at war because they're not on our side. And I don't just mean Iran, I mean the Democrats, too. Let's go to soundbite number 17. because I got to say, this woman, very impressive, Caroline Glick. She is an author, a scholar, an advisor to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, and all-around smart woman. I was watching her. My best girl and I, this is my best girl and I, we were at home yesterday. We had some breakfast, delicious blueberry pancakes my best girl made, and chicken sausage and orange juice and stuff, and it was good. And we were catching up on the news, as you might, because of all the stuff going on. And there was this nice lady that came on, Caroline Glick, and I said, well, we started listening to her, and it was strange because we had just had a conversation moments earlier, and my best girl said, what happened this weekend is epic. It's historic. This could be as significant as the Ayatollahs taking over in November of 1979, when the Islamic Revolution took place in Iran, right? So we're listening to Caroline Glick, and we're talking, and my best girl said that, and I said, oh, that's very, very interesting. Hadn't thought of that first myself. Very nice. And Caroline Glick, so she's an advisor on international affairs, Benjamin Netanyahu, and an all-around smart woman.
This wasn't just a military operation, a joint U.S.-Israeli military operation. It was a pivot point for civilization's battle against barbarism. And for 46 years, the Islamic regime in Iran has been making advances for barbarism, terrorism throughout the globe. It built proxy armies all around Israel of its terror forces while building its nuclear weapons program and its ballistic missiles arsenal.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. And listening to her. And then I heard this, and I've got to say I was tempted to just poach it, but then I remembered that I don't do that. So I want to give her credit. And Caroline Glick, who lives in Israel, and she is a American Israeli writer, thinker, advisor, and a serious person, Caroline Glick.
This was perhaps the most meaningful, significant week since Israel started Operation Rising Lion on June 13th. And then when the United States joined in yesterday, it was probably the most significant week strategically for the Middle East, perhaps even since 1979.
The most significant week strategically for Israel, perhaps since 1979, which was, again, the Islamic and Islamist revolution when the Ayatollahs took over and the American embassy was overrun. And Caroline Glick saying this past week, could be the most significant week in the Middle East since 1979, since the Islamic Revolution. And the goal, of course, is to bring civilization, to undo that, to reverse that, moving forward. And the Iranian people, according to a great many indications, would be happy to welcome in a new regime and out with the old regime. Now, who takes over is another question. Would it be the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the IRGC? In fact, there are reports today, that in the buildings that were hit in Iran, it's who has this Mossad commentary, Mossad being the Israeli intelligence service. The tweet is, Israel's assessment: in the current attack, hundreds of Revolutionary Guardsmen were killed inside the buildings that were attacked. The IRGC, Major League bad guys, nothing but bad guys. And now Mossad commentary on X, which is Twitter, saying that hundreds of Revolutionary Guardsmen were killed inside the buildings, plural, that were attacked. They were not parked in a very smart place, I've got to say. All right, now let's go to Thomas Massie, because Thomas Massie is a Republican member of the House of Representatives from Kentucky, and he has come out very much against President Trump's decision to bomb the nuclear facilities inside Iran. And I got to say, it's perfectly reasonable to have mixed feelings about this. And it's easy to say, well, okay, now we've done this, what's the next shoe to drop? And did we pick the fight? These guys have been picking a fight with us since their creation in 1979, and attacking Americans in Beirut in 1983, attacking Americans in Iraq during the Iraq War, attacking shipping, attacking economic interests. They are the bad guys. But you can have a perfectly good conversation about whether we should, the United States, be the leader when it comes to knocking out their nuclear weapons program. And you got clowns like Penitentiary Face, the communist Brennan, saying, our intelligence assessed that they weren't assembling a bomb. All right, what's the timeline on that? How long would it take them to assemble 9 bombs? And nobody ever in the news media ever asked the obvious question, and certainly not of Penitentiary Face when he is on MSDNC this morning. But back to Thomas Massie. President Trump has said he's had it up to here with Thomas Massie. I just did the hand slice across my neck gesture. He's had it up to here with Thomas Massie because Thomas Massie was naturally invited to go on Face the Nation with Margaret Brennan yesterday because they knew he would say anti-Trump things and be I don't want to say he's being pro-Iran, but he's being anti-strike their nuclear program, even though how far away are they from having an arsenal of nuclear weapons? And how far will their ballistic missiles go? And who are they again? They're Iran. Thomas Massie.
It was a good week for the neocons in the military-industrial complex who want war all the time. I wouldn't call my side of the MAGA base isolationists. We are exhausted. We are tired from all of these wars, and we're non-interventionists. I mean, this was one of the promises. I mean, are you going to call President Trump's campaign an isolationist campaign? What he promised us was we would put America first.
Look, he's not living in isolation. He's not completely alone. President Trump, according to the New York Post, Trump goes nuclear on Republican after Iran war powers slapped down. MAGA doesn't want him, in quotation marks. And President Trump has announced that, he got on Truth Social, said Massie is weak, ineffective, and votes no on virtually everything put before him. And he put in parentheses Rand Paul Jr. No matter how good something may be, President Trump said on Truth Social, and he said Massie should drop his fake act and start putting America first. But he doesn't know how to get there. He doesn't have a clue, President Trump said. MAGA should drop this pathetic loser, Massie, like the plague, he said. He also, President Trump, said that, we should primary Massie, and he said whoever goes after Massie's seat as a Republican, President Trump said, I'll go down there and campaign for you. So Thomas Massie, again, on CBS, because they knew, this would be bad for Trump, and it create division in the Republican Party. So CBS Face the Nation invited Thomas Massie, who said this.
My question is, does, 3 bombings and we're done with Iran's nuclear ambitions? Is that the 2 weeks to slow the spread of 2025? Is this, we were told 2 weeks to slow the spread then. Now we're told it's just going to take 3 bombings. But what happens when Israel gets bombed again? Mm-hmm. Is Trump going to sit by and say, no, we're not going to further engage in this war?
Well, they've already been bombed again since they've had missiles raining down on them in the aftermath of the B-2 bombings of the 3 nuclear sites. And, look, Israel lives in a constant state of war because of the Islamists around them. I don't want to see a massive, prolonged war with Iran. I don't know anybody that does want to see a massive, prolonged war with Iran. And again, Iran is a big dog. Iran is not small potatoes. They're serious. And there are also reports all over the place that should probably not be believed, that the Ayatollah may be on his last legs, that the regime may be on the way out, that the people of Iran, slightly more than half of them Persian, and slightly fewer than half of them other ethnic groups, Turks and Turkmen and tribal groups and so on, But, it's the neighborhood, that region of the world is a hotbed of stuff. Am I right? Yes, I am. Now, let me go because there are people on the phone. There are other things I want to get to, aren't there? What else what do we have? We have, I know. We got Massie. Yeah, let's go to the Nobel Prize because I talked about this last week, and I talked about it on Friday. And then on Friday, talk of the Nobel Prize for President Trump. Barack Obama got the Nobel Peace Prize, and then he attacked 8 countries using the U.S. military. Libya was left rudderless, leaderless, murdered Gaddafi and ISIS and Al-Qaeda in charge. Nobel Peace Prize, indeed. But President Trump was asked on Friday, one of his many press conferences, hey, do you deserve the Nobel Peace Prize? He's brokered peace between India and Pakistan, 2 African countries. He's trying to bring peace. He's got peace between Israel and 3 Arab countries in his first term as president, trying now to expand on that. And things got complicated over the weekend. President Trump on Friday.
Well, they should give me the Nobel Prize for Rwanda and, if you look, the Congo, or you could say Serbia, Kosovo. You could say a lot of them. You could say, the big one is India and Pakistan. I should have gotten it 4 or 5 times. I should get it for the, I would think the Abraham Accords would be a good one, too. They won't give me a Nobel Peace Prize because they only give it to liberals.
That's pretty much exactly what I said on Friday before the president said that on Friday, that he may have earned and he may deserve the Nobel Peace Prize in myriad ways that Barack Obama did not and does not, but the committee will never give it to him because it's a hack show. Katie Pavlich, wonderful Katie Pavlich on the Fox News channel. This was Sunday. Okay, so after the strikes on the Iranian nuclear facilities.
I think we're going to see the fruits of this decision tonight play out for many, many years to come. And if the Nobel Peace Prize were worth anything anymore, I would say the president certainly deserves one.
I would say the irony of it all, but I would say that that's true as well. There is a Republican congressman from Florida by the name of Randy Fine. And Randy Fine, the question of President Trump, the Nobel Peace Prize came up as well.
He eliminated Iran's threat of having a nuclear weapon, which is an extraordinary threat not only to Israel, but to the entire world. And he frankly should have earned the Nobel Prize tonight.
Well. Isn't that great? Man, oh, man. And is that going to happen? What do you think? I suspect not, but it really doesn't matter. Because it's not really an important prize anymore. All right, let's take a phone call, which I've been remiss in not doing for too long now. Let's go to Joe, calling from Purcellville, Virginia. Joseph, you are on the Chris Plant Show.
Hi, Chris.
Hey, Joe.
I'm an engineer, although I'm not a nuclear engineer, but I had a chance to design a nuclear reactor. There's a lot of targets that are still available. There's still a nuclear reactor that's really run by the Russians. Now, nuclear reactors produce plutonium as a byproduct. So I don't know what the deal is with Russia. I think they were supposed to have the fuel reprocessed back in Russia and get the plutonium out, but who can trust them on that?
Right.
People got, as far as enrichment, the first nuclear reactor had no enrichment. Enrico Fermi built one under stadium in Chicago.
University of Chicago, sure.
Natural uranium. So a minimum amount of enrichment is necessary.
Right.
Depending on what you have as a coolant. So the bottom line is that there's a lot of, a nuclear core of uranium is about the size of a melon.
Yeah, grapefruit. Yeah, that's right.
But a plutonium is much smaller.
Yeah. Yeah, a softball.
Yeah, exactly. So you know that.
Yeah.
But basically, they've been testing. The Iranians have been testing bomb designs going back 15 years. and they've been using natural uranium, the U-238, to optimize the explosive. You've got to make an explosive that is circular, that presents a constant pressure that squeezes the metal down.
Right. Yeah, the implosion. Yeah, and listen, you're 100% right, Joe. And what happened to the nuclear materials? What happened to the 60% enriched uranium? How much of it is there? 30 times more than they're allowed to have under the JCPOS that Barack Obama inflicted upon the world. And you're 100% right. And also there were Chinese airplanes, the communists, and Putin is in this up to his eyeballs too. The Russians and the Chinese, the communists, they're in bed with the Islamists, which makes no sense, except they love terror and killing and mayhem. See the 20th century, if you don't believe me. But you're 100% right, Joseph. And the nuclear threat, I don't think has been completely eliminated from Iran, but it has been enormously reduced, mitigated, delayed, postponed, put off, made much more difficult. And I do think that somewhere behind the curtain there is an eagerness to see regime change there without military action, but an internal upheaval that would lead to regime change there. And hopefully a regime that doesn't long for an arsenal of nuclear weapons and ICBMs.
Well, boys, I reckon this is it. Nuclear combat toe-to-toe with the Ruskies.
I should mention that the nation of Qatar has announced by way of their foreign ministry that they have temporarily, they say, shut down airspace, their own airspace. They say because they're concerned Iran has said they intend to retaliate. And Qatar wants nothing to do with it, so they say they have temporarily shut down their airspace, the foreign ministry, to ensure the safety of residents and visitors. Iran has repeated earlier threats to retaliate against the United States after strikes on its nuclear sites. And there's a crazy New York Times story because they lie about everything. Pentagon worked up ruse to fool Iran on strikes because they feared Trump would give it away on social media, is the New York Times talking to anonymous people. Oh, yeah, we had to have the B-2 ruse because we were afraid Trump was going to leak it to the world.